Hi everybody, welcome back to Yoga with Pat. Today I want to share a full moon painting with you. This is fun and easy, beginner friendly. So grab yourself an apron, some brushes, a canvas, and let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we're going to need today is a canvas. I have a 16 by 20 canvas, but this painting is going to translate to a variety of different sized canvases. So whatever you have is fine. And then I'm also using 4 brushes. I have a big brush that's about 1 inch thick, and then I have some in-between size brushes from 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch. You only need one of these, one in-between brush, and then also important, a pointy brush, and that's gonna be your detail brush. So that's just, if you can see the size there, any pointy brush will do. There is a variety of different styles of pointy brush. I also like a long pointy brush, and that's going to be really good for doing things like blades of grass or tree branches. I really like having a long pointy brush in my brush collection. Okay, so with all those brushes, you're also going to want a cup of water, and this isn't for drinking. Also have your refreshment cup, but this is going to be for holding your paintbrushes when they have paint on them so that the paint doesn't dry on the bristles. So really important. And it's also for cleaning off your brush. And then you're going to want some sort of a napkin. I am out of paper towels, so I'm going to be ruining one of my cloth diapers. Okay, and then you also want a plate. I have here like, I guess this isn't a big plate. This is like a salad dish, a side dish. I don't know, but it's gonna be a good size for our moon. So I'm using a plate as my stencil. Also a paper plate would work if you don't wanna get paint on one of your dinner plates, but acrylic paint washes off of slick, hard materials like this really easily. Okay, and then finally, you'll want a paper plate to put your paint on. I like to use a glass palette just so I'm not going through paper plates all the time, but I might use this paper plate in order to show you color mixing during our painting. Then today I'm going to be using Phthalo blue, spelt P-H-T-H-A-L-O, blue. That's my favorite blue to work with. So I'm going to pour that on my palette here. And then I'm going to use black. And I'm using the student grade acrylic, so no need to get fancy. We're doing this for fun. And then I'm going to use some white. Any white will do. And then, if you have it, and it's not necessary, but for fun, we can use some magenta in our sky and also some phthalo green. Maybe we'll put in some grass or something like that. We'll see. So work with what you got. Got some pink, some magenta. Okay, so now with that, we're going to get started. So first things first, we're going to use our plate as our stencil. So we can take maybe our pointy brush or even one of the medium-sized brushes, get it a little wet. I'm gonna get out my plate stencil here, and I'm gonna start out with my phthalo blue. And we're just marking out where we're putting our moon here. So I'm gonna take my moon, and I think I'm gonna put my moon just a little bit above the middle line. So if this is the middle line, I'm going just a little bit above. So maybe I've got 4 fingers away from the top of my canvas. And this is approximate. It doesn't have to be exact. So I'm just going to trace all along the paint, all along the plate. Boom, and there's my moon. So we're not done with the moon yet. We're actually going to wait to paint inside of the moon. We're gonna paint first our background. So we're gonna get in our sky completely in before we put the moon in there. So now I'm gonna grab my biggest brush, and this is my background brush. And I'm gonna start with the blue, with the phthalo blue paint. And I'm just gonna start at the bottom of my moon, and I'm gonna go all the way around. All the way around the moon. Kind of giving it a little barrier. And then because I love the coverage of phthalo blue, we're just gonna take this all the way across our canvas. And we can leave a little bit of space at the bottom, maybe like 3 fingers of space. You don't have to do a straight line, but that's where we're gonna put our ground. So we don't need to go all the way to the bottom. And just going every which way, I'm gonna hold this so it doesn't make so much noise. Just going every which way with the brush. I'm gonna cover the background with my blue. And we can take this all the way up. I mean, if you have a bigger brush, a wash brush like this, that will cover. Oh yeah, look at that. There we go. Now we're getting something done. And go all the way across the top. I like bristle brushes like this for the initial background, only because it just really gets the paint into all those nooks and crannies. If you're painting on canvas, you'll find that you get these little like grid marks when your brush doesn't have enough paint on them. And so I just like to get the paint into that texture so that texture doesn't show through on the painting. So if your craft store is out of canvas, you don't need to paint on canvas. Of course, canvas is nice because it's lightweight and you can hang it up pretty easily on a wall, but you can also paint on MDF from, it's like a particle board from like Home Depot or Lowe's, so you don't necessarily need to paint on canvas. And acrylic paint reacts really well on a variety of surfaces, and it'll stay on a variety of surfaces. So if you have any surface questions, like what can I paint on, leave it in the comments and I'll get back to you. All right. So now we have our background in for the most part. We're gonna come back into this background with some black paint next. So I'm gonna move back to my inch size brush. I'm just gonna give it a little dab on my napkin, and then I'm gonna dip it into the black paint. Now, I'm gonna put black paint all along the bottom. This is the ground. And I'm just gonna do a line, basically a couple of brush strokes across the bottom. And it's about, again, 3 fingers thick on the bottom. And then I'm gonna take this black paint and I'm gonna go to the top corners, and my brush strokes, I'm using the thick side of my brush and I'm just going every which way. So when I say thick side, I mean I'm using this part of my brush. I'm laying my brush down flat as opposed to cutting down like a knife with the brush. So using the thin edge. So those are your sides on your brush. So I'm taking my black paint, I'm just going on the top corners here and just going every which way, and then I'm going to take it across the top as well. I'm just letting that black blend into the blue. And then I'm going to come down the sides, just using the paint I have on my brush, taking advantage of the fact that my brush and my paint is still wet, so it's really going to lend itself to blending. And voila, there we go. So now, remember I had you put in some magenta paint, so we can add that in. So I'm just gonna dip my brush in my water and then dab it on my napkin just to clean it off a little bit. And then I'm gonna take some of that magenta paint. I'm gonna start to work the magenta paint just randomly into my blue paint. Just a couple of strokes here and there, back and forth, maybe working its way into the black a little bit. And this is just gonna give the sky sort of that summer sunset look, a little bit of a galaxy effect. And add as much or as little of this as you like. There's no rules. This is your sky. It's gonna look awesome no matter what. Okay, so the last thing we're gonna do before we let this dry for a good long while is we're gonna fill in our moon. So let's clean our brush off again. This time really well, just give it a really good shake in that water cup. And then a dab, dab, dab on the napkin. And then I'm gonna take the white paint first. I'm gonna start to work the white paint into the center of my moon. So it's already white, so you're not gonna see what I'm doing here. But I'm working towards the edges a little bit. And then taking the edge of my brush and working around the moon. Now remember I talked about those grid marks, so I'm trying to meet right up with the edge of the paint so that we don't have that texture. We want to completely cover our canvas with paint. So we don't want any canvas showing through. So I'm just going over the edge. To your moon, that's okay because we're adding texture to our moon. So just work it in. And around. Awesome. Now, while our background is wet, let's move to one of our medium brushes. We're going to add a glowing halo around our moon. So, going into the white paint with your medium brush, we're going to drag this paintbrush all along the edge of our moon. So, just the thickness of your brush. And giving our moon a glowing halo. Refill as needed, but you want that paint to mix with the background. So try your best to use the paint that you have on your brush all the way around. And then just going back and forth to kind of get that blue in with the white, working our way around. Awesome. Okay, so to blend that edge a little bit further, because right here I have some texture and I don't want that, I'm gonna dip my brush into the water and I'm just gonna clean it off a little bit because I don't want any white, too much white on there. So, and then after I dip it in the water, I'm just gonna shake it. I don't want drippies. So just a little bit of water on your brush, and then we're gonna work our way around the edge of that halo, further blending the paint into the background. Amazing. Now that halo looks seamless with the background. Okay, a little bit more work to do in the moon before we let the whole thing dry. So now I want to make some gray, because when you look at the full moon, when you look at it in all its glory, when it's super big, you can see all those craters and the texture of the moon's surface. So we want to make sure that we add that in there. So I'm going to take a little dab of black and I'm going to put it on my palette. And let's say 2 dabs of white. So 1 glob of black, 2 globs of white. And then we're going to mix those together, and that's going to make a gray. And I'm looking at this now and I'm thinking that this gray might still be a little dark for what I want to do on the moon. So I'm going to take another glob of white and I'm just going to put it on the corner. So I'm not working that paint, I'm not working that dab into the whole mixture of gray paint. That way I have a couple of different options. And you can even take it a step further and get yourself another glob of white paint and then work into that corner and see what you come up with. And now you have 3 different options. Fun, right? So now I'm going to take that gray and I'm going to start to work around my moon. So I'm going to start in the bottom left-hand corner. I'm just going to do a couple of brush strokes, just going every which way. Maybe some are small using the corner of my brush. Maybe some are large for a bigger crater. And I'm just working along one side of my moon. So you can start to see the texture working its way there. And I used the lightest gray, so I'm thinking that that is going to be enough for the gray. So I'm just going to wipe off my brush, go back in with some white, and then work some more texture into there, just with the gray that's on my brush. And doing my strokes in kind of a crescent moon shape is making it so that my moon looks spherical. So we sort of have a dark side of the moon and a lighter side of the moon. All right, so that's pretty good for our moon. So I'm going to leave that there just like that to dry, and we can add one more fun little touch to our background to really seal the deal before we take a break and let it dry. So let's do that. So I'm going to clean off my medium-sized brush really well, make sure there's no gray left in there. And then taking some water from my cup, I'm just going to mix it in with a little bit of my white paint. And I'm making my white paint like really watery. So I've got this like really watery paint effect. I just added some water to my white paint. So see how thin that is? Yes, that's what we want. Now I'm going to take my finger across the bristles of my brush to create some stars. So we're splashing now. So I'm just taking my finger and combing across the bristles of the brush. And then we're going to get some splatters on our canvas. So I'm just going to do that here. Do that along here. And you can do as many stars as you like. This is just going to give us a really celestial, gorgeous effect. And embrace the uniqueness of your stars. You might have some really small ones. You might have some big globs. Embrace it. It's part of the fun. Okay, so now I'm going to leave it like that. Let's go ahead and take a yoga break. So while we're waiting for our painting to dry, if you aren't already sitting, go ahead and take a seat in a nice sturdy chair. I'm short, so for me, this chair really works, but some chairs, my feet hang off the ground. So if that's the case for you, if you have yoga blocks, grab a set of yoga blocks, or really if you have some boxes or a stack of blankets, just something to get your feet up off the ground, or not up off the ground, but get your feet nicely, firmly planted and grounded into the floor. So this, and we can also sit forward on our chair a little bit just to make sure that we're really grounded into the floor, that our feet are firmly planted on the floor. So if I sit forward on this chair, I don't need the blocks. So with sitting a little forward, my feet firmly planted, we're just going to do a few stretches. We're going to do a little shoulder stretching. My shoulders always get really tired after painting, or even while I'm painting. And then we're going to do a little hip stretch just while our painting dries. So first, let's start by warming up our shoulders. And just sitting up tall in your chair, settling your weight into your feet. We're gonna start to roll the shoulders. So let's lift the shoulders up on an inhale. And then exhale, roll them back. And let's do that again. Lifting the shoulders up on an inhale. And then exhale, roll them back. And then let's do that a little quicker. Just gonna roll our shoulders forward and then back. Remembering to breathe. And then let's take them the other way. Now we can add some arm movements. So we're gonna take our hands out, palms facing down. We're gonna start to make circular motions with our hands. So we'll start our circles small. First going back, and then you can start to make them bigger. Ooh, might feel some cracking and some popping. That's all right. All right, and then we're gonna go forward before we get too tired. Okay, put your hands back on your lap. So now let's grab a strap. Now if you don't have a yoga strap, you can grab a towel, use your apron. And I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna set it over my shoulder. And then I'm gonna take my right hand out in front of me, thumb facing up, and bring the arm up and overhead, and then bend the elbow and find the strap with my hand. The other arm is gonna come back and around and grab the strap on the other side. So now from here, I'm just gonna sit up tall, open up through the heart on the inhale. And then on the exhale, maybe the fingers come closer together along the strap. And breathe here. This is called cow face posture or Gomukhasana, at least the top half. And just breathe here. Take a few more breaths and we're going to switch sides. Now release. And we're going to take the strap and put it on the other side, on the other shoulder. So now I'm going to take my left hand, thumb pointing up, and I'm going to grab the strap behind me. My right hand, thumb pointing down, is going to come around to find the strap. Now my right arm, I'm right-handed, so my right arm is always way tighter than my left arm, so you might feel a difference, and that's okay. It's perfectly natural. It's my painting arm. So I'm going to inhale, exhale. Maybe the fingers come together, maybe not. Maybe we just kind of think about it. Maybe we move our fingers along the strap and hope for the best. I'm going to make sure that you keep this arm by your head. Sometimes the tendency is to have the arm out here, but you want to stretch in this arm as well. So we're going to bring that elbow towards the head as we inhale and sit up tall, opening through the heart. Exhale. Open. Bring the hands closer together. And just sit with that a little bit longer. Making sure that we're stretching to a point of discomfort but never pain. Yoga teaches us to sit with discomfort, but also to be kind to our bodies and to accept ourselves exactly where we are. All right. And take one more deep breath in. And let that all the way out. And now we're going to release. Oh. And let's do a little hip stretch. First, we'll warm up the legs. So maybe pull one knee into your body and just hug that knee. Maybe rock side to side. Kind of letting the hips know we're coming for them. And then put that foot down. Let's do the other one. Hug. Rock side to side. Then we're going to do a little forward fold. So here, you can bring your feet a little forward and then inhale, lengthen and open up through the heart. Exhale, fold forward, hinging from the hips. And I'm going to bring my hands down to the floor. If they don't meet the floor, that's fine. You can bring them to the legs. And then just relax your head. And then come back up. And we're going to take our right leg and we're going to cross it over the left thigh. So this is kind of a cross leg position that you might have seen before. So this is a great opener for the piriformis muscle. There's also a version seated on the mat, and there's a standing version of this. We're going to do the seated version right now. So if this is comfortable for you, if you're not feeling any discomfort in your knee, this might be enough of a stretch for you, and that's okay. Just hang out here for a second. If you feel like you can do more, inhaling, lengthen through the spine, so sitting up, opening up through your heart, bringing your shoulders back. We're going to fold over that leg and just go as far as you can until your body says no. And then if it says no, 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 back off. But if it's just like no, hang out there. And you should feel a stretch on the outer hip here. That's your piriformis. And just breathing. Remember to breathe in these uncomfortable poses. Remember, no discomfort in the knee. Just gentle surrendering. Make sure to keep this toe pulled in so that way we're protecting the knee and we're accessing that hip muscle. All right, now we're gonna come back up. We have to do the other side. So we're gonna take this leg, we're gonna put our ankle over our right thigh, just in front of the knee, or just behind the knee. And then we're gonna inhale to lengthen, exhale to fold forward. Remembering to keep that toe pulled in. That's protecting your knee. Hello, Elvira. Inhale to lengthen and exhale to fold deeper. And we'll take a couple more breaths here because we have to check on our painting. Inhale, come up. Bring your foot back down, and let's take those legs and let's just hug them in. So we're just going to do a forward fold over our knees. So inhale, lengthen, exhale, fold over your thighs, resting your belly and your chest over your thighs, and then take your arms around your knees and hug them in. Relax your neck. All right, let's come back up and let's see how our painting's doing. All right, we're back. So let's check to see if our painting is dry. And not quite, some paint is still coming off. So I'm going to use a hair dryer. That's right, a hair dryer to dry my painting so we can move on to the next layers. So if you need to dry your painting, hit pause on the video and let's dry our paintings. So now we're going to add some blades of grass to our ground. So for that, this long pointy brush is going to be your friend. So if you have that, awesome. If not, this one will work just fine. You just might have to reload paint more often than if you're using this guy. Okay. So taking my long pointy brush, I'm going to go into the black paint. That's right, the black paint, and you'll see why. So I'm gonna start at the bottom corner here, and I'm just gonna brush up and end at a point. And I'm gonna do that all across the bottom horizon line here. So I'm mixing quite a bit of water with my black paint, or with a corner of my black paint, and then rolling the brush around on the palette. And then I'm pulling the blades up. So we're gonna go across the whole thing. And you might have different size blades of grass. And we're gonna go across the whole thing. And since this is a nighttime painting, we're making like grass silhouettes. So this is the shadow of the grass. And then we're gonna add some highlights when we come back. So you can imagine that this painting is maybe in a field. And you can imagine that during this day, this field is filled with wildflowers, filled with bees and butterflies and other pollinators happily buzzing around. And at night, it's tranquil, quiet. Maybe there's a few fireflies. So So we're just pulling those blades all the way to the end. And if you have the long brush, it goes so quickly. All right, almost done. And periodically, I'm going back into my water and just refreshing that paint, keeping it nice and fluid. At the edges of my painting, at the right and left side, I really want those blades of grass to be just a little longer. That way they frame the painting and bring your attention towards the moon, which is the star of the show. All right, I think it looks good. Okay, so we're gonna let those blades of grass dry. I know, we just took a break. But if you have your hair dryer, you can use this to dry those blades of grass. So let's do that. Okay, so now that my blades of grass are dry, so I did mention before like fireflies, so we can add some of that right now. And I'm gonna show you a little bitty trick. So I like to take the edge of my brush, or the end of my brush, and dip it into the white paint. So now I've got some paint on the end of my brush, and then boop, make a little dot. Now that can be a star right there, or you can take your finger and then rub that little dot around in a circular motion, and you create like a little halo. And then I'll dip my brush back in that white paint and go right in the center, boop, and there you have either a twinkling star or maybe a firefly. So we can add those at any point. We can do some right now, or we can wait until our blades of grass are dry and then add some fireflies on top of those. So there are fireflies. So before we get into adding more, since we might want to put some in the grass, let's go ahead and get into that green. So I'm going to be using the phthalo green. So I'm just going to take that long skinny brush, and again I'm going to dip it into the green with a little bit of water, and I'm going to go right over those blades of grass with the green. Now you might be able to see that. And we're just gonna vary these shades. So first I'm just gonna use just the green right out of the bottle, and I'm gonna go on top of some of these blades. And just pick a couple. And some of these blades can go all the way from the bottom of the canvas and go up. You can line them up with a blade that's already there, or some of them can start a little bit closer to the top of the ground. So I'm just going to vary the heights of this grass, or where they're coming from the bottom of the canvas, or from closer to the horizon line. So it doesn't have to be every single blade that you made before. But it can be. Awesome. Okay, so now if you want to vary it, you can mix a little bit of white with your green, and that's going to give you like a minty color. And I'll show you what that looks like. Yes, I love that. Maybe some over here. And we have another option after this. So if you have yellow paint, if you have a set of paints and yellows in there, which it probably is, then you can mix some yellow with your green as well, and that's going to give you another quality of green and just add a little bit more dimension, a little bit more glow to your field. Just love this mint green so much. I don't want to stop using it. Okay, so now let's find our yellow paint and let's add some yellow to the mix. So here I have chrome yellow, but really any yellow is going to work. Maybe not like a mustardy yellow or a yellow ochre. You're going to want like a lemon or a chrome yellow or a bright yellow. Just steer away from the earthier yellows because that's not going to give you the glow you're looking for. So I've got a little yellow on my palette, don't need too much of that. And then I'm going to take some of that yellow and I'm going to mix it into my white and green mixture. And this is just going to give me like a really bright, vibrant, like lime yellow or lime green. There we go. And that is just like really radioactive. I love it. All right, you guys, well, I really love the way that looks. So now from here, if you want to, we can start adding some fireflies or some glowing stars. And we're just gonna play around with that a little bit. You don't wanna add any to the grass until it's completely dry. So while you're waiting for it to dry, you can start to add some to your sky. And remember, we just make a dot using the back of our brush and then rub it in a circular motion with our finger. Got a little glowing halo, and then boop, right back in the center of that, another white dot. Exciting. So I don't like to do anything even on either side, especially when I have like a central focal point, just because it makes things look unnatural. So I'm gonna keep it uneven. Make sure I don't put two or the same number of flying objects in my sky on either side. Maybe we'll do two there. And then if you want to add some to your grass, again, we have a hair dryer, so we don't have to wait for it to dry. Okay, and now we can just go back and maybe right in the center of our grass or somewhere along the blades. Boop. Couple more fireflies. Ooh, you could even make the center yellow. That little firefly glow. All right, and there you have it. We have our full moon, our summertime full moon landscape. Really just awesome, relaxing painting to do on a day where you're trying to take some rest, take some time for yourself. Landscapes are just really fun and stress-free painting to do, especially during a full moon. So I hope you liked it. I hope you have fun. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel to get notifications for when I post a new painting video or yoga video. So like always, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for watching and hopefully painting along. And I'll see you for the next one. Namaste.